What's going on, guys? Zach Hernandez, Matt Llewellyn back here in 49ers Hive, and today we are live previewing the 49ers Week 5 matchup against the Miami Dolphins. Matt, we talked about this during the week on Niners News, and it's hard to talk about a Week 5 game being a must-win, but this game sort of has that feel to it. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And here's the thing, you know, it should be an easy win too. Not only must win, it should be an easy win. So the Dolphins are not a good football team. I know they play hard under Brian Flores, but they just lost another piece on their offensive line. Ryan Fitzpatrick, you don't know which guy's going to show up one week to the next. He's just thoroughly inconsistent. The ground game hasn't been that good. By all indications, this should be a romp for the 49ers. It's just one of those things where if you go into it, do the things that you need to do, you should be able to come out with a win. And really, the big key is going to come out of it healthy, because after this, we're going to hit a huge stretch where it's just going to be like, kind of annoying to deal with all these good teams, let alone injuries that we already have to deal with, lack of pass rush, a lack of corner help and stuff like that. So, the easier that they can make things on themselves this week, the better it'll be for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. After this week, the 49ers have a really, really daunting 7-week stretch, concluding with, I believe, the Buffalo Bills after a bye week. So they need to get the ball rolling here. They need to get that momentum going, because they had the chance of the first 4 weeks being relatively easy games for them to kind of get some momentum, get the ball rolling, like I said, but injuries kind of derailed those efforts. And now they're kind of sitting here 2-2, 2 games behind their division. I think they're tied for last place, if I remember correctly. So it's the pressure is on. Let's just put it that way. They need to step it up and they need to win. And obviously it all starts with under center. The biggest news is Jimmy Garoppolo will be back Sunday after missing 2.5 games. What do you want to see from Jimmy after we saw an abysmal performance from Nick Mullins on Sunday night?
It's going to be hard to do worse than what Nick Mullins did. So good quarterback play is a start. Rhythm coming out of Jimmy right off the bat would be good. So, get the ball out, get it out on time. Yeah, line, always an issue. So protect the ankle. Just make smart decisions with the football. So we got a taste of what Nick Mullins could potentially be, and it wasn't good. So hopefully there's going to be some appreciation for Jimmy and what he brings to the table. Just you got to go out there. You got to get the points on the board, because with as many defensive injuries as we've had, with the lack of a consistent pass rush, with all of the depletion along the secondary, you're going to have to score points. Maybe not today. This should be like a get right game as far as like the Dolphins goes, but going forward, you're gonna have to be in rhythm, build some momentum, because those are not going to be an easy stretch of games. So the more he can get in rhythm, the more he can be consistent, get the ball rolling, the better it's going to be for the team.
Yeah, definitely. And we see our own Stefan Kruger in the comments saying he wants to see a repeat of the Jets performance. That would be phenomenal, because that's the best I've seen from Jimmy in a long time. At least going back to last season, you can argue his shootout with the Saints. But some of the throws and the ball placement and the mobility in the pocket, escaping pressure, it looked fantastic. And I was really excited to see.
Like? What it looked like? It looked like 2017 Jimmy.
Yes, exactly.
Like those last 5 games where he was, especially that Chicago Bears game where he was just threading the needle to Trent Taylor, and you're just like, oh, geez. And they just get there. He looked decisive. He looked aggressive, and he had the ball there on time and in place. So, yeah, like if he can do that, man, that'd be amazing, because that's what we're all hoping that he would step up to be, And I think I've been one of the strongest Jimmy Garoppolo supporters out there. But, like, even I'm getting to the point where it's like, dude, you got to take a step up from where you were, even in relation to last year, because let's face it, with ball placement and sometimes with decisions, he's inconsistent. So he's averaging over a turnover a game for his career. I know we had a discussion about this, and it's one of those things where, like, you have to take care of the football along with getting the ball to where it needs to go. You have to take care of the football. There's no room for all those turnovers. So, if he can do that, I mean, that'd be fantastic. So it'll be interesting to see, especially with such a big break. like what is he going to come out efficiency wise? So
Yeah, I totally agree. He had 2.5 games roughly to get healthy and get back to normal. And I just feel like he should be getting comfortable now that he will have Debo, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, all of these guys he didn't play with. I mean, I think he had a half with Brandon Ayuk, if I remember correctly, if he played during week 2. But George, he lost after the first half of week 1, and Debo he hadn't played with at all this season. So I just feel like he really needs to go ahead and get this going, because we talked about it previously. They can't lean on their defense as much. They're not able to do that.
Right.
They, last season, the back end of the season, I should say, their offense did step it up a little bit, but for the most part, their defense kept them in a lot of games. And they don't have Nick Bosa. They don't have Solomon Thomas. They don't have Richard Sherman. They don't have a lot of these key players to go ahead and say, okay, well, we can only put up, we don't need to put up more than 21. We should win this game. And I saw Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback, was asked, I think yesterday's press conference, how do you feel now that you don't have that dominant defense to lean on? How do you feel now that, do you feel like you have more pressure to score? And he kind of said essentially, look, I'm trying to score every play. I'm not going into the huddle with the mentality that, well, the defense is going to help us out. I don't need to do too much. So I thought that was good to hear that, the offense has a mentality. And I think Kyle has said it himself. He pretty much draws every play up to where they can score if everything goes right. So they need to have that offense step up, because they're not able to lean on defense, like I said. And that leads to my first question for you, Matt, is what do you envision from this pretty much fully healthy offense?
I expect them to put up some points and move the football. But that's going to be contingent on, two things: play calling and line protection. And line protection has been really bad so far. The other thing is play calling. I know there were some people out there saying like maybe Kyle Shanahan's lost some confidence in himself. And I actually think it's the opposite. I think he actually is overconfident. I mean, the game against the Giants, Mullins threw 36 times despite them leading pretty much bell to bell. So, you have to establish the run. You have to be able to do that. And, if your traditional bread and butter isn't working, Kyle Shanahan has to, kind of check his ego a little bit and try to find something that works, because you can't just hang Jimmy out to dry back there like all the other quarterbacks. I believe the 49ers are one of the worst teams as far as, allowing quarterback hits. So that doesn't really work for long-term success for the offense. And you don't want to get into situations where maybe you have a nice pass on first down, right? And you get 6 yards, but then you run it on second down, and now you're at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and the defense knows the quarterback has to throw. And it's not like we have a Kyler Murray or anybody like that. So it's not like they're going to run for it. So you're dropping back, you're throwing pass rushers at the quarterback. And if they can't get it out on time and on target, then it's going to be a long day for the 49ers.
Yeah, it's going to be rough if they can't do that, but I think that they should be able to. And I'm really looking forward to getting this ground game going. And, this offense, their offensive line, I should say, has been ugly, to say the least. It's been very shaky. And I'm really excited to see if they can kind of improve now that they have their starting quarterback under center and Jimmy Garoppolo, because he helps them out a lot. His mobility, his kind of pocket presence, and not only that, but he has that mental clock and awareness that I feel like Nick Mullins just doesn't have. So he's able to shift in the pocket, step up, whatever the case may be. And he's, that helps out the offensive line a lot. And Mike McGlinchey has had some struggles. Trent Williams even struggled on Sunday night. So they need to have some help.
Some struggles for McGlinchey is putting it kindly. McGlinchey has been terrible.
He's been bad. He's been pretty bad.
I mean, I don't even see running backs throwing blocks where they get knocked on their ass that much. I mean, it's just been awful. We talk about it all the time. The dude needs to put back on some weight. He's way too thin for this season.
Mm-hmm. He is, yeah. And, George Kittle is a better blocker than him, and your tight end shouldn't be a better blocker than your, first round offensive tackle. And
at this point, I think George Kittle weighs more than him too.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. No, I don't know what diet he's on or workout regimen, but it's obviously not working. Slim Mike needs to go back to Big Mike, and I'm hoping it happens soon. Why don't we go ahead and take our first question? This is from Spy Nick Danger, Matt. must we simply outscore the Dolphins to win this game?
I think, listen, I know what he's going for, but let's be real. Each team that wins the game outscores the other team, so it's kind of like a given. But as far as like offensively, like, yes, the 49ers need to put up more points than the defense is going to give up. And at this point, the team's success is going to be driven by the offense, just because the defense, I mean, people will look back and say, oh, well, they only gave up X amount to the Jets, or 9 to the Giants, or what. Those teams suck, though. Yeah. When you come up against people, again, game 1, Kyler Murray couldn't contain him. Game 4, both of our losses, Carson Wentz couldn't contain him. He broke contain a couple times, especially on that touchdown run. So, if we're going to have those issues, we have to outscore the other team on terms of the offense is leading the way, rather than the offense can play conservative and the defense kind of brings everything together. It's going to be a departure from what it was last year, but with the playmakers we have, it can be done.
It totally can. And I think, I talked about this in the offseason about how I feel like they're definitely capable of switching more into a more offensive minded team, I should say, because their defense has been their bread and butter, like I was just saying. And I think this season they added the weapons necessary to go out there and get them to be able to put up 24 plus regularly per game, no matter who they're playing. And I think it starts this weekend, because this is the first time we're going to see, like I said, Jimmy, George, Debo, Ayuk, like that duo. I don't even know how many of those 4 people.
Debo's still a question mark, right?
With the non-COVID illness, he is still a question mark. But for the most part, from what I've read, all signs are kind of pointing to him playing.
I saw the Kendrick Bourne Instagram thing too, where Debo was in the building, like dancing around. So he seems to be okay.
Yeah.
It'll just remain to be seen whether he actually gets out there. I imagine it's probably going to be a similar situation to the Eagles game, where if he is out there, it's for like 25-30% of the snaps. So
yeah, I could totally see that. With kind of the emergence of Brandon Ayuk, I'm not going to say that the 49ers don't need Debo, because they definitely do. But I think even on a pitch count, they can survive that now that they have the rookie stepping up, and he's getting better every week. Let me ask.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
It's good to have too much rather than too little, though. And I'd rather see Debo out there. So I'd rather see Debo and Ayuk across from each other on most of the plays than to throw somebody like Kendrick Bourne out there, who, listen, he works super hard and everything like that. But if he's one of your top 2 wide receivers, you don't have a strong wide receiver room. And that's, like, I know 49er fans are going to be mad, because, we all love Kendrick Bourne. He works really hard. He's the epitome of what a 49er should be in terms of work ethic and showing up to the building and being a good teammate. He's just limited with his ability. I mean, that's just plain and simple. Physically, he's not as physically gifted as Debo or Brandon Ayuk. And it's just as simple as that, and it's no knock on Kendrick Bourne. I think it's a third option. He's a really good third option. It's just the same thing with Trent Taylor. I don't want Trent Taylor out there all the time. I mean, he's shown that he's obviously diminished from even what he was prior to his back and his foot injury. And it's not like he was a world beater before that either. So, you always want your best guys out there. If you can have Ayuk, Debo Samuel, George Kittle out there, and then eventually when we get Jordan Reed back, I mean, geez, that's going to be nice.
That is going to be nice. And let's take a question here again from our own Stefan. Seen people on Twitter say Ayuk is wide receiver 1 over Debo already. What do you guys think? I'll go first on that one. 4 games in, he didn't play the first game, if my math is correct, so that leaves 3 games that he played. No, just no. And Debo, look, as great as Debo is, it's hard to argue if he is a wide receiver 1. He's a wide receiver 1 in this offense, but I think on other teams, he's probably a wide receiver 2. He can't stretch the field. He's a possession receiver. He reminds me of a smaller Anquan Bolden almost. He's a fantastic route runner. He's going to fight through the contact and get the job done, but he's not going to be a DeAndre Hopkins, even, a Michael Thomas as far as reception. So I love Debo, and that's not me diminishing him at all, but I just don't think he's outside of this offense. He's wide receiver 1. And for as far as Ayuk, not yet. That's what I'll kind of say. Pump the brakes. Let the kid have a full season first.
Yeah, I would say that neither one in this offense is wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 1 is George Kittle. And if you really want to break it down even further than that, I don't think that Kyle Shanahan's scheme really necessitates a wide receiver 1. He wants to get people open as often as possible. He schemes for different guys. He always wants to give the defense a different look. And, unless you have somebody overwhelmingly talented like a Julio Jones, like you did in Atlanta, I don't necessarily. And even in Atlanta, I mean, there was Mohamed Sanu was there, and you had, a bunch of different play. The running backs caught passes out of the backfield, which is disappointing because Tevin Coleman isn't doing much here, but there were different guys that were always open or schemed to be open in the Kyle Shanahan offense. And I think that holds true, that you don't necessarily need a wide receiver one. I know that sometimes Kyle thinks he doesn't need a QB one. He definitely does. Everybody does. But, wide receiver one, maybe not as important, because if you have enough dynamic playmakers between Ayuk, Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and then, Jordan Reed, if he comes back, and then you have like a fifth guy like Kendrick Bourne, and then you have, Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, all of a sudden you start to think, oh man, this is a stacked offense. And the defense has to account for everybody. So the more guys that are out there that can create havoc, the better. So wide receiver one, I don't know if that it's that important, rather than getting as many playmakers out there as you possibly can.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, George Kittle by far is wide receiver one. That's kind of why I was saying I don't think they need one, so to speak. But yeah,
Right.
he's been great through 3 games, but he needs to show he can do it consistently and over the stretch of, once defenses get some tape on him, once they know his tendencies, then I'll be ready to crown them. But so far, let the rookie have a full season first, or at least get through a half of a season. I would pump the brakes on that. Another question, Spinic Danger, what becomes of Dante Pettis after the season?
Trash pile.
Yeah.
Landfill. Who gives a shit? He's gone.
With all due respect,
Bye.
not much.
Thanks for nothing.
Yeah. We've seen, when you talked about this with Carson Wentz a little bit ago, Matt, that if the 49ers can't keep the opposing quarterback in check, especially on the ground, and limit the ability to extend plays with their legs and get out of the pocket and make something happen, they get burnt. They end up losing the game. How can they make sure that doesn't happen from Fitzmagic on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, he's not a traditional mobile quarterback in that he looks to run, but for a guy that went to Harvard, man, he throws himself out there like hardcore, like a meathead, and he's not afraid to go head up with a linebacker. And I think he relishes those opportunities. And he does, he led the Dolphins in rushing last year, believe it or not. I mean, that's an insane thing that the quarterback led the team in rushing, which just shows you how bad the Dolphins were last year. But, good thing my wife's out of town because she's a Dolphins fan. She'd hate having me say that, but it's true. I mean, he's not a guy that is actively looking to run, but he'll take the lane if it's presented. So, there definitely needs to be better recognition on the edge and better contain to keep, that kind of stuff from happening. And, the linebackers, again, are going to have to sometimes, spy a little bit, just in case. Fortunately, I don't think that the Dolphins' skill positions are overwhelmingly strong. I mean, Preston Williams is okay, and Devontae Parker's okay. The guy you really got to watch out for is Gesicki, who I think is really good. But other than that, I mean, Myles Gaskin, all right. And we know what Matt Breida is, although I think that, Breida's going to get more touches than usual because, that's how it usually goes. But if we can contain those guys and, force Ryan Fitzpatrick into becoming Fitztragic instead of Fitzmagic, then, it'll be a good day for us. So, force a couple turnovers, especially early if we can sack him, maybe get a strip sack or something like that, set the tone for the day. The worst thing that the 49ers could do is let the Dolphins hang around, because that's when they become the most dangerous. Because, I mean, you saw it against, New England week 1. I mean, New England almost botched that game, barring that, they had the fumble out of the end zone. That was a touchback. And barring a late Fitzpatrick interception, I mean, it was a close game. So you don't want to give a team, because they do play hard. They might not be talented, but they play hard for Brian Flores, and Brian Flores is a good coach. You can't give that team too many opportunities to hang around, because it'll come back to bite you in the ass. Play like you were the NFC champions last year and blow this team out of the water early and go home.
Yeah, totally. They haven't really lived up to their expectations, but it's kind of hard to say that because they've been so beat up. We don't really know what the expectations of this team is.
Right.
I know we knew what they were going into this year, but as far as now, it's kind of like up in the air. And I totally agree with you. They need to make sure that they don't lose contain on Fitzpatrick, because he has an arm and he is physical. He's able to kind of get out there. And I really like Preston Williams. I like Devontae Parker. I think they got some good wide receivers there on the end. So the 49ers, and going into this game, they will be beat up as a secondary. So they need to make sure that they don't get burnt, because if so, it could be a long day for this defense. But let's go ahead and get back to our offense and Jimmy G. We have a question from NY, and he said, which wide receiver or tight end will benefit the most from his return?
I mean, a lot of them. I mean, all of them, really. I mean, Nick Mullins was hot garbage. And, again, the real criticism that I have of Nick Mullins is, outside of George Kittle, like, what did he really do? Who did he throw to? So I think, and even in certain circumstances, it'll benefit Kittle. Maybe not the volume, but I think that the opportunities will be there. But I think especially the guys on the outside, I don't know what kind of rapport. He hasn't played with Ayuk yet, so this is going to be his first time. I don't know what kind of rapport that they're going to have. If Debo plays, I definitely think Debo will benefit from Jimmy Garoppolo being out there, because they seem to hook up on a pretty consistent basis. Maybe even see a little more out of Trent Taylor. At this point, really what the benefit is going to be is that Jimmy has more boom potential for the offense. Nick Mullins is a chunkster. Okay, we're going to get 8 yards here. We're going to, first down machine when he does move the ball. But then you always have to worry, is that turnover coming? Can he make the big throw, the hard throw when you need it? Outside the numbers, he doesn't really show a lot of arm strength. At least, Jimmy, while he doesn't throw deep down the sidelines, can hit that 15-yard out if needed. So, barring that, I think everybody really is going to benefit just from better. I mean, when you're in there, you're going to benefit from the best quarterback being on the field. So, it's hard to say specifically. I just think that by proxy of better quarterback play, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to make people, if not better, get them the ball when they need it.
Definitely. And I was going to add on there before you did. George Kittle might not benefit, because he benefited a lot from having Mullins on Sunday night. That stat line was insane. And I don't think that he might not have a better game than that all year as far as more receiving yards. So I'm going to argue either Debo or Ayuk, because and that's contingent obviously on Debo playing, but I heard in training camp offseason that him and Ayuk had a hell of a connection. And, they are asked Jimmy about it on their last press conference during the week. And he said, we were getting some really good chemistry. He calls him B. I thought that was kind of funny. Me and B were really connecting. We really liked it. So it's exciting to be out there finally together. And Jimmy looks excited. And I think I talked about this in the podcast that we just put out today, that Jimmy kind of probably heard all of the slander the last 2 weeks, and then slander, and then everybody hoping for his return. So I think that he's going to come out there on fire and just kind of ready to set things straight and prove why he's the quarterback going forward, not just for the rest of the season, but next year as well. We got another question here. When will Trent Taylor emerge, if ever?
I mean, emerge. I don't know, man. I don't know if emergence is really a thing. He needs to work on consistency before he gets, emergent. I don't know. I think that injuries have kind of sapped what little athleticism he had to begin with. And I just don't see this super crisp route running that we saw in his rookie season. He just doesn't look that quick, So, again, I think along the lines of Dante Pettis, this might be it for Trent Taylor. This might be his swan song. And, got to start looking for another guy to build depth, Yeah, it sucks because, it seemed like last season before the foot injury that him and Jimmy had really good rapport, and you want to see that stuff kind of grow and see what you can get out of it. But foot injuries are tricky, man. And, we're talking about after a back injury too. So you're talking about back feet. Like, if it was a shoulder, that's fine. You're a wide receiver. You don't need your shoulders, but you definitely need your lower body, your back, your hips, your knees, your ankles, your feet. Like, those are the important things. So, yeah, I don't know if he's ever going to make it. It's going to be, we're going to find out quick, if he has that rapport with Jimmy and he can get open and, get him. Because we saw it in game 1 where Jimmy tried to get him that 4th down throw. Really that ball was kind of on Jimmy. So, like, I'm not going to blame Trent for that. But, if he doesn't show out soon, then, the 49ers are going to show him the door.
we've heard for how many off seasons now in a row, this is Trent's year. Trent's, on fire. That Trent and Jimmy connection, though, nobody can beat it. And then routinely, either it's injury or it's usually only injury that keeps that from happening. And it's unfortunate because that 2017 year, they were a very good connection. They were a very good duo. Yeah. There was a lot of chemistry. It seemed like, Jimmy always knew where Trent was, especially on third downs. That guy was a third down machine. And yet that really we haven't seen that since. And I know it's largely due to injury, but still they're both healthy now. There wasn't much of a connection in week one. And even while Jimmy's been out, we haven't seen much of Trent. So even with a guy like Mullins, and I know that Mullins doesn't necessarily have a connection with Trent, but still I was hoping to see something. I mean, he had that big, I think the first play of the game against the Jets, he had a nice catch, or the Giants, he had a nice catch. So I don't know, man. I just feel like he needs to step it up, because if not, the 49ers, like you said, are going to be looking for another slot receiver very soon. We have another question here.
Oh, real quick. He's got 5 catches for 37 yards.
Oof. That's like a first games. Half
that's
stat.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's not good at all.
Terrible. He needs to step it up, or he's going to be out of here.
Yeah. Going to the defense, does Eric Armstead need to show up big in this game in order for the 49ers to win?
I mean, you always want your defensive line to play well. I think Eric Armstead needs to finish plays. I think that he can sometimes get loose with his gap assignments, get loose with over pursuit, and he really needs to, I mean, he's the senior guy on this line. It's all up to him as far as like getting everybody in order. And, we haven't heard his name enough. We've heard of people, Kerry Hyder and DJ Jones and, other guys like that. But, we need to hear more out of Eric Armstead. He was the guy that the team chose to go with, and they chose to move on from DeForest Buckner. And, it's time for him to repay that faith in him by producing on the field.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they need a huge game from him to win this game. They could probably win, which is an average game from Armstead, but you want to see it because you want him to kind of show that continued improvement in the level of his play. And not only that, but to show up and be the leader that this team desperately needs. He's not surrounded by Nick Bosa and Thomas, and, he doesn't have a Ronald Blair anymore.
You said Thomas. Oh my God. You said Thomas. Get out of here.
It's a habit. You can't say one without the other now that they're both gone for the year.
Thomas is doo-doo. He's a body.
He's not next to Bosa.
Just put the blocking dummy out there, dude. Just put the blocking dummy out there. The blocking dummy, the tackle shed will get more pressure on the quarterback than Solomon Thomas gets. Little baby hands.
Okay. He's not next to Bosa anymore. Not next to a superstar defensive end to help clean up or push the quarterback into the middle for him to get the sacks, or even Buckner. So he needs to show the team made the right decision in keeping him and giving him that monster contract. And he's played relatively well, but I agree with you. He just needs to finish, and he needs to get home and get these sacks.
And I think that's going to be contingent upon Javon Kinlaw. Because I don't think that it's any coincidence that the year after Buckner got 13 sacks, right, and became the focal point of opposing defenses, and then they pick up Nick Bosa, like, where's the attention going? Not on Eric Armstead. So that's when Eric Armstead has a career high in sacks and almost, gets half of his career sacks in one season, because quite frankly, until that point, he's underproduced. And now you see with some of those guys out, now you're seeing the stat sheet not getting stuff like it did last year. And I think that can be, that can be concerning. I don't necessarily think that he needs to play, an amazing game. He needs to play a smart game. And sometimes he gets out of pocket a little bit and doesn't hold his gap or misses an assignment or whatever the case may be. And if he can just play a smart, efficient game of football, then he should be okay. And everybody else should have an opportunity to make plays as well as Eric Armstead.
Definitely. And, what I really want to see from him, to be honest with you, is that it's not I don't want to necessarily say 1 year wonder, but it's not a contract year, ball out type year, because we know guys could play out of their minds when they're earning that check the next season, and then they kind of don't really follow up. So I'm not saying that's what Armstead is going through, but I want to show him prove that it's not, because Now that all of the spotlight's kind of on him, he's the veteran on that defensive line. He's the highest paid one, I believe. He has to show up and show why he deserves it. Next question. Who has surprised you the most, good or bad, so far?
The thing that surprised me the most, and this is going to be a bad thing so far, our special teams are garbage. Like, bad. Like, the worst. Probably one of the worst in the league. Our punt return, it might as well just not even exist, you know? I know that kick return isn't really a big deal because, like, a lot of the kicks, it's more beneficial to just let them bounce in the end zone and take it at the 25. But punt returns, it's mystifying. They can't decide who to put back there. One time it's Dante Pettis. The next time it's Trent Taylor. You know, then you'll see Dante Pettis in traffic will field the punt and try to take it back. But then when he has 15 yards in front of him and nobody there, he fair catches. It's just such an inconsistent and bad position. We had the long snapping issue that Nelson got the yips and he's gone. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like special teams, you don't want special teams to beat you. And there are times where I'm afraid that if it gets down to a very close game, that it could be special teams that beats us. And I still have horrible memories of that 2011 season where Kyle Williams fumbled away a Super Bowl opportunity for the 49ers. So, you know, again, special teams is the forgotten son as far as, you know, offense and defense. They always steal the show and everybody goes, oh, what's your offense? What's your defense? But what do the great teams like, you know, the New England dynasty have? And, you know, all of the good teams out there, what do they have? They have good special teams play. They have solid special teams play. And it doesn't have to be spectacular. You don't have to have a guy that's, you know, you don't need a Devin Hester back there who's going to return everything for a touchdown. You know what I mean? But you do need people that make smart decisions. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
I don't know.
No, I totally get you. It's been abysmal to say the least, and it's disappointing because they had some sparks provided via special teams last season. We haven't seen that at all through 4 games. I hope they're able to step it up. Looks like we got a super chat here. Let's see. Matt, what would it take you to rock a Mullins jersey?
I mean, if somebody buys it and sends it to me, I'll wear it. But, you know, as far as buying one on my own, I'd rather jump ass first into a pencil factory. It's not my ideal choice. I actually think the next jersey that I'm going to get is a Fred Warner jersey just because I think he's fantastic. I think he's like one of the best linebackers in the league. If not, I mean, inside, he might be the best in my opinion. Yeah. But as far as Mullins, nah, dude. Nope.
Thanks for the super chat.
If he buys it and sends it to me, I'll wear it.
All right. Yeah. If you guys are serious about this, DM us. We'll get you an address to send it to. But thank you for the super chat. Going back to the question.
Appreciate it. And Sergio, he's always here too. I love him. I don't know what his real name is. I really don't think it's Hung Fat. That's way too ironic. But if it is,
I've kind of refrained from saying that. thanks for your support. And Sergio,
we're far enough in the monetization doesn't matter, dude.
Yeah, true. Appreciate the love. Great show. We really thank you guys all for tuning in. We're trying to get this thing going regularly. So pre-games, post-games, come and join us here live on YouTube and on Twitter. We'll be breaking down all the aspects of the games. Let's see. Are we worried about between lack of practice from injury and now a cold or flu that Debo may need a few games to get going?
I don't know. Like if he's physically healthy, I think he'll be okay. You know, this is year 2 in the offense. He kind of knows what he's doing. So at this point, I don't think that it's like life or death that hasn't been out there, so to speak. Maybe needs to knock some rust off. I would expect any struggle that he really has as far as like, you know, because if he's physically healthy and he's out there running and stuff, he should be okay. Conditioning and maybe like mental lapses as far as like, you know, maybe he moves his eyes up the field before he secures the ball and has like an untimely drop or something. That would be where I think that would hurt him the most. But I mean, you know, Kittle missed 2 games with the knee injury and then came back and had 15 catches for $183 and a touchdown. So, you know, if you're healthy and you're as physically dynamic as those guys are, you're going to get opportunities to make plays. So I expect that to continue this week too. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I was going to say more so the mental aspects, maybe case of the drops or, something to get over quickly. Maybe he feels a little antsy, but I think it's important that he was able to get out there Sunday night. So that way this isn't his first game back with, all the first quarter of the season missed. And then now maybe an illness on top of that. He kind of got those jitters out of the way Sunday night. I don't think it'll be that much of an issue. We got another comment here. I think this is referring to our Trent Taylor discussion. He'd rather see Richie James Jr. than Trent Taylor. What do you think about that?
Receiving, yeah, probably. You could use him a little more dynamically in the return game. No, he sucks, dude. Yeah, James is a terrible returner. But I mean, I don't know. Shit, maybe throw him back there because the punt return games has been so bad anyway. It can't be any worse, right? And I remember Richie James seemed to be like average at punt returns. He was really bad on kick returns. He was bad on kick returns, but punt returns he seemed to do okay. Anything is going to be better than what we've gotten out of Trent Taylor so far, which has been less than anything except from Dante Pettis, who, I mean, that speaks for itself. Dante Pettis is going to be a cuss word around San Francisco 49ers fans for a long time.
It's going to be Dante the new Kyle Williams.
Dude, he might be a bigger disappointment than AJ Jenkins.
I think the thing with Dante is that he and I know you hate this word, but he flashed. And he really did. If there's a definition of somebody flashing, it's Dante Pettis. He came on.
He teased us with potential. AJ Jenkins sucked from the start. Like, everybody knew, that was a terrible pick. Like, even when they picked him, we were like, huh? Like, why are you picking AJ Jenkins? But with Dante Pettis, you were like, okay, well, he's the NCAA all-time leading punt returner, which how is that not translated? But like, he flashed, again, that word that I hate, but he did. Like, it's true. He flashed at the end of his rookie season and then just completely fell off a cliff. So, it's almost like it's easier to be blown out by a team than it is to lose a close game. And it's one of those things. AJ Jenkins blew us out, man. Like, he just sucked from the beginning. But Dante let us get close enough that we're like, dude, he could really be something. And then he took that away, and it's like, you son of a bitch. So I think Pettis, man, he's bad.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, okay, look, think about it this way. If you go to a diner and then somebody puts a plate of the most disgusting looking food in front of you, right off the bat, you're thinking, I don't want to eat that. Get that out of my face. But if somebody brings a steak and then puts it right in front of your face and it's all nice and hot and steamy and you're smelling the aroma, and then they take it away and say, here's a bowl of oatmeal, you're like, well, screw you. What the hell? I want the steak. Bring the steak back.
No, it's even worse than that. It's like you get a bowl of delicious pasta, and halfway through the pasta, you find like somebody's severed finger, and you're like, what the? Like David Yang, Pettis hurt himself juking on that 5-yard punt return. He juked in place for like 3 seconds. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, are you just doing like high knees in place? Like, what the fuck?
It's true. It was like, and then he just fell.
Yeah.
And then apparently he came up on the injury report. So it was rough. But we got another question here from Sergio. What gives us the best shot at winning a Super Bowl? Wait it out with Jimmy Garoppolo, trade for Aaron Rodgers, or draft the best available dual threat quarterback? I'm really excited to get your take on this one.
Okay, well, we're not getting Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers is playing incredibly, and Jordan Love looks like dog shit. So he's the third stringer in Green Bay. Most game days, he's not even dressing. So he's got a long way to go. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be there until he's diminished, and then they'll try to replace him. Drafting a dual threat, are we going to be high enough to draft a dual threat quarterback? And what's to say that when you take the chance on the college quarterback that he doesn't end up, bad? I mean, we thought, after his rookie season, Baker Mayfield looked like a sure thing. Now he looks like nothing more than a game manager. So, you got to be careful. Again, Sam Darnold, top 3 pick. Jets ruined him. Josh Rosen, top 10 pick. What happened to him? He had no favors done for him. You never know how these quarterbacks are going to pan out. Outside of Trevor Lawrence, I think the book's out on Justin Fields and Trey Lance. I don't know that they're going to translate. Trevor Lawrence looks like the best prospect since Andrew Luck, and probably even a better prospect than Andrew Luck, just from a sheer, just the way that he plays. But, you don't know. So I think, is Jimmy G ever going to be Aaron Rodgers? No, he's not. But as we saw last year, he's capable of leading the team to a Super Bowl. And sometimes, that's all you can ask for. And, I would have said before this that the best thing to do is dangle Jimmy G and maybe like a first-round pick out there for Bill O'Brien to get Deshaun Watson. But, I mean, now that Bill O'Brien's been shit-canned, that's not going to happen. And even look at Jimmy's contract. His contract isn't that bad now. You look at it in comparison to some of the other deals that have been signed, I don't know. If you want to get rid of Jimmy G so bad, the way that you're going to have to do it is you're going to have to trade him to free up cap space and then maybe go after somebody like Dak Prescott. But how expensive is Dak Prescott going to be? When this team has, 25 pending free agents coming up?
Yeah.
So they have a lot more problems than trying to replace Jimmy G. So I don't think that it's going to happen because they have to retain guys. They have to find new guys. They're going to have to draft corner. Like that's an absolute need. Interior offensive line, absolute need. They have to re-sign Trent Williams. I mean, there's so much on the table that I don't think that you can really afford to replace Jimmy G at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, look, we've talked about it kind of endlessly at this point. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's, like you said, he's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Mahomes. He's not any of these tier 1 quarterbacks, but he's better than a lot of guys. He's better than a lot of guys.
He's better than Cam Newton. Sorry,
shout out to Scott out there.
Cam Newton. I get the last word because I'm on camera, sir.
Yes. But look, you can win a lot of games with Jimmy. You don't need an elite talent like Mahomes. The Chiefs were doing fine with Alex Smith, I'd like to point out. So, look, they were half of a quarter, maybe even less than that, from winning a ring with Jimmy. And this conversation likely isn't even taking place. Fans are probably content. Go ahead.
Before we move on real quick, and this has nothing to do with the 49ers, but you brought up his name, so I am predicting that Alex Smith is going to get snaps for the Washington football team this week.
Woo!
I do not think that Kyle Allen is going to make it through that entire game.
Wow. All right.
We'll see if that happens.
Anyway, and also, speaking of predictions, we've been doing this for a couple of weeks now. I think it's pretty cool. Drop your guys' predictions of the final score at the end of the game. If you get it correct, we'll send you guys some free 49ers Hive merch. You don't have anything to lose. Drop your comment below, and we'll go through them afterwards and see if anybody got it correct. But yeah, going back to Jimmy Garoppolo, you don't need the best talent in the world under center, especially when you surround him with great weapons, which they have with George Kittle, Debo, what appears to be a Brandon Ayuk. They have a fantastic running back in Mostert, and when healthy, this is one of, if not the best defense in the NFL. I know they're not healthy right now, but they're still playing at a relatively high level. So you got to keep all that in mind. And I totally agree with you. Aaron Rodgers isn't happening. Maybe before this year, maybe even going into this year, there was a chance, but I don't think it's going to happen now at all. So I would just say Jimmy's all right. Don't hold him to the same standards that you would hold Mahomes to, because you're going to get disappointed every time. Appreciate what he does well, but you can still objectively point out what he doesn't do well. Let's see. Going through the comments. Oh, look at this. You guys are my favorite. Been tuning in since day one. Basically, thanks for the shout. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. That's cool.
Say his name. Say his name.
Hung Fat.
There you go. I know you wanted to.
Thanks for the love, Hung Fat. David Yang. Even if we draft a quarterback, Jimmy is still going to be the quarterback. No point of drafting for the future right now. And that's a good point. Is unless you're drafting a guy like a Trevor Lawrence who you think can come in and play day one, you're essentially drafting Jimmy to groom him, and he's not going to play right now anyway. So also David
and there's no guarantee that Jimmy would coach up another guy anyway. Dude, I've seen Jimmy watch other people make mistakes, and I've seen the death stare that he gives people. Jimmy is a fiery dude. He gets pissed off at stuff. So I don't know, man.
Yep. Like all the times we've seen him throw to Pettis, and Pettis doesn't go out for it, and he just kind of shells.
He hates Dante Pettis.
Yeah.
He wouldn't piss on Dante to put him out if he was on fire.
It's quite obvious, even just reading the lips from the TV.
Yeah, he doesn't like him at all.
Yeah.
I don't blame him, dude. If you don't have a dog in you and you're not willing to fight for the team, you know what I mean?
He's making Jimmy look bad. And I won't just put on Dante. Any receiver that doesn't go up and fight for the ball, you're going to make your quarterback look bad. He's not going to trust you and not going to want to go out there and give you the ball. But going back to the comments here, David Yang, I would have loved Watson for Jimmy. That would have been fantastic. I was really high on Watson coming out of Clemson. He was my number one quarterback in that class. I really liked him, and I would have loved to have seen what Kyle can do with a guy with his talent. And when Bill O'Brien was fired recently, I think I texted in our group chat, and we should trade Jimmy and Saleh for Watson in return. And I think that everybody would kind of come out happy there. I know you're a big fan of Deshaun Watson too, right?
Yep. I love Deshaun Watson. I think he's immensely talented, and I think that Houston has done him a huge disservice by not putting a better line in front of him. I know they tried with Laramie Tunsil, but it's like you mortgaged the Hopkins trade. But I just can't get over how stupid that trade was. Yeah. You're going to trade one of the best receivers almost of all time. I mean, he's shaping up to be that for oft-injured David Johnson, a running back, and you're and you got a 2. It was like a pick swap and then a pick swap or whatever.
Yep.
Like, what are you doing? They have no first or second round pick this year. Like, they're screwed. And by the time that Deshaun Watson gets the help that he needs, I mean, he's going to be ruined.
Yep. If I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm telling my agent, get me out of Houston, get me anywhere else, essentially, besides the Jets.
Oh, did we lose Zach?
Maybe, and they wouldn't even need quarterback. But all right, sorry about that.
Thought we lost.
Going through some more of the some more comments. Carlos here. A franchise quarterback is a guy capable of delivering wins, regardless of situation and circumstance. That's a fair definition. I think it's a guy that you can lean on when all else fails, and maybe your number one targets or your defense puts you in a position to where you need that guy to go in there and give you that game-winning drive. And we've seen that from Jimmy consistently. So this year, we're going off of 1.5 games, so I'm going to stop judging him off of this year because week one's, it's tough when you don't have any offseason, no preseason. It's tough to just turn it on just like that. David Yang, until Jimmy starts losing games, fans need to calm the F down. All he does is win. What's your take on that?
Exactly right.
Nothing else needs to be said.
Again, no, because listen, there's a reason. If you think that Mahomes is special and you think that Russell Wilson is special and you think Aaron Rodgers is special, there's a reason for that. It's because those guys don't grow on trees. They're special because they're rare. And so when you don't have one of those guys, the next best thing you can hope for is a guy that will win you games. And Jimmy does that. That's plain and simple. He wins way more games than he loses. So until the team starts, overtly losing games, you got to just ride with him. That's the whole thing. And that's why, I know that Cam Newton is this dynamic threat or whatever, but Cam Newton's win percentage is not good. He's never had back-to-back winning seasons in his career. Jimmy comes in 2017 cold after sitting 3 years behind Tom Brady and comes in and wins the last 5 games with a 2017 team that was looking for a while there like it was going to be an 0-16 team. I don't think they won their first game until like week 10.
That's right. Yeah, they were 0-9. So
right, and so he comes in and he, hits 5 straight games, comes back, has the injury, but then comes back and goes 13-3. So what do you really want out of him more than wins? Of course, we'd like to see more consistency, maybe become a little better and elevate his guys, but he does a good job.
Yeah, no, I agree. And if you don't think it's Jimmy, and maybe you're one of the people that thinks it's Kyle or it's the surrounding offense, then why can't anybody else get the job done? Even Nick Mullins, who a lot of fans were arguing, maybe they were being sarcastic, who knows? But I saw a lot of people saying when Mullins was announced he was going to be starting, oh, great, now the best quarterback on the roster can get out there and win some games. Jimmy is by far the best quarterback on this roster, and I agree with David Yang here. He's a winner, a proven winner, and really that's all you can ask from the guy under center. Stefan, 30-22. Just being honest, I don't know if we could send you anything if you're right, Stefan. Nick Danger, 28-27. 40. Oh, that's a close one. Hopefully it doesn't get that close. Let's see. David again. He doesn't want Alex to start another game. He's already proved enough. It's going to suck if he ever gets hurt again. What's your take on that, Matt, being our medical expert here? Is it worth him risking injury?
They wouldn't let him out there if he was going to hurt himself. So,
yeah.
If he's good to go, he's good to go. I know Carlos said we froze. Are we back? Are we good? Everybody can see us? Yes. Good. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I had to check out. I was actually pulling up the YouTube feed real quick just to check to make sure we were good. So, yeah, I've seen Alex Smith's leg, and it looks horrendous.
It's
And
gross.
it looks like Elephant Man, and he's very self conscious about it because he wears that leg sleeve all the time everywhere he goes. So, yeah, like if something happened, man, that'd really suck. But a lot of people said that about Teddy Bridgewater, and now Teddy Bridgewater has a job in
Yep.
Carolina being the starting quarterback there. So again, if his doctors say that it's good, once the bone is healed, all that stuff around it, it's just like it looks terrible. It looks like crap. But if it's functional, then
It's all that matters.
he's the bone is going to be the bone, and it's healed, and obviously he's been cleared for football activities. You just worry that maybe he doesn't have the athleticism that he used to. But man, even somewhat diminished Alex Smith is probably better than what they got. And that's no knock on Dwayne Haskins. I don't think that situation's done him any favors, but just some of the things that Dwayne Haskins can't overcome because he's so young is something that an experienced guy like Alex Smith can deal with just because, he's had his 13, actually this year 14 or 15 for him now.
It's I think he was taken
He's
in 2006, right?
Number 1, 2005.
2005, yeah.
Yeah, he's carved himself out a really nice and productive career. And that's the thing with Jimmy. Like, if you can get an Alex Smith-like career out of Jimmy Garoppolo, that's not terrible. You know what I mean? Like, those Chiefs teams didn't choke in the playoffs because of Alex Smith.
No.
Let's be real. I mean, I specifically remember, I think it was 2013, his first year there, where he took the Chiefs to the playoffs. They got this gigantic lead on the Indianapolis Colts, and then Andrew Luck just carved him up in the second half, and they won that game. And it's like, well, Alex Smith had 4 touchdowns. His completion percentage was 78. He had 500 yards passing. That's your defense letting you down. That's not Alex Smith. So he gets a bad rap because he didn't really win. But I mean, when he was the starter, the firmly entrenched starter with good football coaches, I'm talking about Jim Harbaugh and Andy Reid, Alex Smith was in the playoffs every year. So again, he wins games, and that's all you can hope for out of your quarterback. And I think that's a similar, that's a good corollary for Jimmy Garoppolo. If you can get an Alex Smith-like career as far as wins and losses out of him, that's all you can really ask. You have to put the pieces around him. He's not a guy that's going to elevate everybody to be, way better than the sum of their parts, like an Aaron Rodgers does with, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who probably wouldn't play on any other team in the league, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Stefan, you know what? Stefan, stop it. I shit on Cam Newton because Cam Newton doesn't win. Alex Smith wins. Go look at their win-loss record. Alex Smith wins. Alex Smith goes to the playoffs every year. Cam Newton has not had a back-to-back winning season in his entire career. That's facts. Sorry, but it's facts.
Yeah, Matt and Cam
Newton looks good this year, by the way. Newton looks good this year. I will say that. I think Belichick is going to do wonders for him. Yep. But, I mean, the consistency isn't there.
Yep. Now, going on back to Jimmy Garoppolo, Carlos said, I think the fans haven't seen the best of him because the Jets game simply wasn't enough, and the Cardinals game disappointed many fans. Totally, 100%. The Cardinals game, but you got to remember, he didn't have George. He had George for a few series. He didn't have Debo. He didn't have Ayuk. He was going out there with Pettis. Who else was playing? KB, and not
Pettis,
much else.
Trent Taylor. He lost George Kittle after the first half. He has a patchwork offensive line. I mean, they're still waiting on Weston Richburg to come back because I don't think that Ben Garland is good at center. I think if they can kick him over the guard, and then whoever's who is it? Who's that right guard? I know Tomlinson's at the left guard.
Is it Brunskill?
Brunskill, right? I don't think Brunskill works as a guard. I think he'd be better as a swing tackle.
He was, yeah. So,
I don't think that works, and I think it's very, very apparent now that Weston Richburg, for all of his failings in terms of being injured a lot, I think he brings a lot to the table in terms of a veteran presence and a guy who can direct the offensive line. I mean, we all know that the center is probably, from a technique wise and from a leadership wise, is probably the most important. I know physically, you want your blind side protected, but the center is a guy that has to, help call out protections and, stuff like that. So, he's going to be he's going to be the guy once he comes back. And I think that you can kick Garland out to the right guard. And then I think that alleviates a lot of, because if you get a guy like Garland who can block and you get him over the right side and you have him, again, somebody who's competent helping out McGlinchey, I think that, much like I think now is the case from McGlinchey's Notre Dame days, I think that Quentin Nelson covered up a lot of McGlinchey's warts. And I think if you can get a good guard next to him, that'll cover up a lot of warts, it'll help him out. So yeah, I definitely think that Richburg is a missing piece in this equation. And another piece, and we haven't even talked about this yet. I can't even believe it. We haven't talked about Raheem Mostert yet.
Nope.
Raheem Mostert looks like he's going to play.
Yep.
And so now we have big play potential at the running back, which running, we have been terrible this year. Like,
it's been very bad
in the league. It's been horrendous. So it'll be nice to get those guys back. Raheem Mostert coming back, like what do you expect out of him? I know that he has a knee injury. He had the MCL sprain. Hopefully it's similar to Kittle's where it's like super minor. That's what it looks like. What do you think we're going to see out of him?
I am excited to see him back because just like you said, you finally get some big play potential back. Jerick McKinnon, say what you want about his return and his recovery, and he's played well, but I think the 49ers are simply asking too much of him to be the main guy right now. He needs more time and he needs to get acclimated a little more. And Raheem Mostert, that straight line speed is unmatched in the NFL. He already has the fastest play of the year in that Jets game. That first play, I believe the first play from scrimmage was that touchdown. So Raheem Mostert, his patience, his vision, and his speed is what this team desperately misses because he makes that offensive line looks a lot better than it actually is. And if he comes back, it's going to be good news for the running game because I think he can really help. Right here, this is what I really want to talk about. They need to start drafting offensive linemen early in the next 2 drafts. They need help up front. And look, I hear you, Matt. Wes Richburg is huge. And I believe they're eligible to get him back after next week, right after week 6. He's eligible to come back off that PUP list. But McGlinchey is looking like he's not the guy. Run skill, as good as he's assigning a free agent signing that happened to work out for the time being. And I think that they need to start thinking about moving forward, getting this offensive line, solidified with some really key starters.
And you can find good starters in like the 2nd and 3rd round. Like, it doesn't have to be like top 10 guys. That's usually where you get your left tackle from. But if they re-sign Williams, they have a top-notch left tackle for a couple of years at least. Really, maybe give a guy like Creed Humphrey a look at the center position or at the interior O-line position. There's guys that you can get maybe 2nd round, 3rd round, because I think 1st round pick, if it was me, I'm going top flight corner. I'm going somebody in the secondary that's going to be like a dude from day one. Like, they can't go another. I mean, Sherman's getting older. He's been on IR this year with the calf, and you worry about that because he's had the previous Achilles injury, and he's not exactly a burner anyway. No. Emmanuel Mosley has been out for like 3 months with a concussion because Tart absolutely stole his soul with some friendly fire. And then, Akella Witherspoon, like, I don't know what we're going to get out of him one day or the next. I'm actually shocked that Jason Verrett has held up so far. And then you have K'Wan Williams, who's on IR now because of his knee. And it's just like, they're dropping like flies. And, okay, cool. Like Jamar Taylor and Dante Johnson and the one guy that they put on the practice squad or activated or whatever his name is, like, they haven't drafted corner high since they've been here, except for Akello. And, that didn't really work out. It seems like Shanahan has a type with quarterbacks, with, wide receivers, with, I think that at some point, and I'll forgive him wide receiver because it looks like Ayuk and Debo are guys. Pettis was a miss. But especially with like Akello and things like that, man, sometimes it's not only about the traits. And I think that Kyle loves traits a little bit too much. Same thing with McGlinchey. It's not just about traits. Sometimes it's about personality and the fight in somebody. And, give me the guy who like JJ Watt in that, I think it was like 2015 or something like that. Remember when he cut his nose or whatever, and every week that thing was just bleeding all over. Yeah. Like, give me that guy. Give me the hard-nosed guy that's going to go out there and be like, well, okay, my arm didn't fall all the way off. So I'm just going to But you know what I mean? Like,
I do, yeah.
you want those hardcore guys. And
Yep.
if you can mix that with traits, of course, those are going to be the best guys. But, it's why you like somebody like Fred Warner, who is quiet, but he's a leader. And you could tell when he was at BYU that he was a leader. He played safety and they moved him to linebacker, and he never kicked up a fuss and, did his job, learned it. And those are the guys you go after instead of just the guy that you're like, well, Akello's 6'2" or 6'3", and he has long arms. He could probably play in our system. And he was pretty good in college. I mean, a lot of guys are good in college, That doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to translate. I think it takes an extra gear to make that transition from college to the NFL. So they really, really, really need to draft well, and I think they need to go corner round 1, maybe interior offensive lineman round 2.
Either way, I think it's obvious these are the two most vital positions moving forward, corner and offensive line. They're the biggest weaknesses for the 49ers, especially going past this year. That secondary, like 90% of it is scheduled to be free agents. So depending on who they bring back and who they don't, it's going to look completely different. And they need to draft well because they don't really have as much time, or any time, I should say, to whiff on any more drafts, especially their earlier picks. They need to get it going now, because if not, that Super Bowl window that we've been talking about might get shut a little faster than we were initially anticipating. So they need to draft well, and I think offensive line might be a little bit more of an issue than corner, but at the same time, it all depends on who they bring back next season.
I don't think so, though. I don't think so. I don't, because, again, if you're looking at a talent pool, right, you're going to be able to find quality linemen deeper in the draft than you're going to be able to find top flight corners. That's just plain and simple. Like, that's just the lay of the land. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it goes. Mm-hmm. So I think that while we have potentially more issues with the line, I think that you have to use your premium capital on a premium position. That's just –
I get that. I totally get that. I just think, look at this season where they've been able to kind of get by with, mediocre to average talent in the secondary, but with 40 quarterback hits, your quarterbacks missed 2.5 out of 4 games already. Mm-hmm. I think it all comes down to protecting the quarterback. But I totally get where you're coming from, and the secondary equally as important. Question here from Ash: how can we make our run game better, which is almost non-existent at this point? We touched on this a little bit earlier in the show, but is it all mainly going down to Mostert returning and getting some spark back into it?
I think that's part of it. I think part of it, too, is I think that George Kittle plays a bigger part in the run game than people give him credit for. And so I think he creates a gap between him and the left tackle whenever he's run blocking, and you have to run to that spot. That's where they're going to end up going. And again, play calling to fit the situation. You can't run directly behind Ben Garland or Mike McGlinchey, because they're not going to do the job. They're not going to get it to where it needs to be. McGlinchey sometimes will run block well, and then the very next play you get a touchdown call back because he held somebody. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way that it is. So, they're going to have to do a lot this offseason, I think, to really address these issues. I think that they're going to take a hard look at Dee Ford's contract. I think they're going to take a hard look at Quan Alexander's contract. It depends on what Sherman's willing to take on whether or not they bring him back. I like his leadership presence, but I think that his days of being super elite are over. And I've been saying that. I think he was exposed last year in the playoffs. Ahkello Witherspoon, too inconsistent. Emmanuel Mosley, he was undrafted for a reason. He played nice for a little while, but how long is that going to last? So there's a lot of issues on the team after this season that's going to have to be addressed. So it's going to depend. But as far as the running game goes, don't run by McGlinchey. It's just as simple as that. You have to use George Kittle in the running game. And, if they can get that going, then of course, now you can start utilizing play action pass, which is going to keep Jimmy a little safer, because if you can't run the ball, they're not going to bite on play action. They're just going to go straight for Jimmy because they don't care. They're like, linebacker will get him. It's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Totally. So if they can get some big runs, then, they'll be able to do that. So.
Yeah, and we've talked about, you talked about getting George in there, getting Debo and Ayuk as well. They've proven to be effective at that end around, the jet sweep. So that gets opposing.
Well, and Debo's a pretty good run blocker too.
He is. He's physical.
So as far as a wide receiver goes, like you can run some plays to those sides with like if you stack Kittle on the side where Debo's at, then you can create some nice blocking out in front.
Yep.
So
totally.
And expect Trent Williams to play better than he played last week. Last week was such an outlier for him. Like he looked bad, but Trent Williams is still an all-pro.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I texted it in the group chat, or maybe I tweeted it. They asked him how he thought he played Sunday night, and he goes, I thought I played, pretty well, minus a play or two. And obviously I sound nothing like Trent Williams, so kind of get that in his voice in your mind. But I tweeted out, if Trent Williams told me in person he thought that he played well, I'd probably shut up and nod and say, yes, sir, yes, you did. That man is terrifyingly large and intimidating. So I thought that was just a funny joke. But we're going to go ahead and get some predictions out for Sunday's matchup. Drop your questions in the comment section below so we can get to them as we wrap things up here. Matt, do you want to do defensive, offensive MVP, and then a final score prediction?
Yeah, and real quick, I'm going to address two birds with one stone, 2 questions in the chat. David Yang, what do we do with Ford and Quan, big money guys who has guys behind them that can possibly fill their void now? And then Go-Kart Mozart, who says, is there any scenario where we end up with 2 first-round picks? Add the 2 together. You can potentially move those guys for like maybe some, like a second-round pick or like a third-round pick here or whatever, then package some picks to move up into the second round. But I don't foresee that happening. I think that the 49ers really like their mid-round guys. So, it's potential they move them both. Defensive MVP?
Yep.
Man, I'm going to keep the ball rolling. Fred Warner.
It's hard not to.
Warner. It's just an easy pick. Like, honestly. Yeah, I just got to go with. I almost went with Jaquiski Tart, but I'm going to go with Fred Warner, and I'm going to ride that for another week.
Okay, I like that. It's like it's your bread and butter. It's hard to not
love. It feels good to just put on, man.
It's true.
It just fits.
It's like picking against Tom Brady. It's hard to do it. In his prime, I should say. For me, defensive MVP, I'm going to go a little bit on an edge here, and I'm going to go with Jason Verrett. I think he is going to play well. I think he's going to have a big game. Devontae Parker and Preston Williams, like I said, they're fast guys. They're big receivers. He can have an ugly day very quickly if he doesn't have his best game. But I think he's motivated. We've seen good things from him this season. I think he continues it on Sunday. And now I'll even throw in an interception there. I think Jason Verrett will have a pick, and he has big game, defensive MVP. Who do you got for the offensive MVP?
I could go pretty basic and pick who probably everybody's going to pick in Jimmy G, but I'm not. I'm going to say Raheem Mostert because I think that this team gets the lead early and holds on to the lead. So I think Raheem Mostert's going to get some carries, and I think that he's going to score twice. And so I have him for, they're going to limit Jimmy G because if you don't have to throw, why throw it? You know what I mean? Same thing as the playoffs last year. If you're just running the ball down their throat, and Miami is not the best team in the world, so they should be able to do good things against them. So I'm going to go with Raheem Mostert. Nice.
I like that pick. I'm going to go again out on the ledge here, and I'm going to say, I don't know how you feel about this one, Matt, but I'm going to go with Casey Jarrett Beathard. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you.
Get out of here.
I went with the full name for some anticipation there. I got to go with Brandon Ayuk. I think that he is going to have another 100-yard outing. I think the last time he had 100 yards, it was kind of total yards from scrimmage. I think this time he's going to have 100 yards receiving and a touchdown, and maybe another 30 yards on the ground. I really like what I'm seeing out of this rookie, and I think that he has huge, big play ability. We saw it last week in that fantastic hurdle, which was just like, Jesus Christ, man, look at this kid's athleticism. I'm really excited to see what he brings to this offense moving forward. But I think Sunday he has 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Final score predictions. What do you got, Matt?
Okay, Vegas has the 49ers as 9-point favorites, and they have the over-under at 50.5 points. I'm going to take the points and bet the over. I got the 49ers 31, the Miami Dolphins 21.
Okay. 31-21. I'm going to go 28-13. I think that the 49ers win comfortably. I don't think it ever becomes a close game. And we might even see CJ get in there for the last, couple of series, depending on how comfortably they do win. Now we're going to get a couple of questions here. Looks like we have, before we wrap things up, Sergio Mendoza. Which top 5 valuable upcoming free agent players do the 49ers not re-sign next year? Ooh, let me pull the list up.
Yeah, let's get it out there.
49ers. Let's see. All types. So let's do unrestricted free agents. Update 1 second. All right. Let's see. It looks like we got Trent Williams. That's right. He was only for a 1-year deal, right?
Yep.
Trent Williams, Richard Sherman,
he's
Thomas.
Probably going to be back.
Yeah, likely. Tart, Juszczyk, Coleman, KB, K1, Ronald Blair, McKinnon. There's a lot of these guys. Jordan Reed, Jason Verrett, Akello.
Yep. It's a big list.
Yeah. So out of those, who would you say they don't re-sign?
Let's see. Top 5. I'm going to go. Tart probably won't be back. I don't think that K1's going to be back. I think he's good, dude. He's played himself into a bigger contract, and I don't know if they can afford him. I hope they bring him back, but I think Tart, K1, Solomon Thomas will be back because he's going to be cheap. Dante Pettis is going to be gone.
Oh, yeah.
I think Akella's a free agent. Akella
Yes.
will be gone. Akella will be gone. And as for the last one, I could see somebody like Ronald Blair leaving.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Really? I think that they really like Ronald Blair, but he might get, depending on how he
there's so
plays.
much depth, dude. There's so much depth that what are you gonna like? It's gonna come down to numbers. Like, dude, they like him, but does another team like him enough to outbid the 49ers, which admittedly won't be that much as you think it'll be, because they're up against the cap already and they have so many guys to re-sign. Like, they've tied up a lot of money in guys that aren't producing enough, and I think that's going to show out this year. I think D Ford and Quan Alexander will be gone after this year because I don't think the team can afford to keep them.
Yeah, that was actually going to be 2 of my 5. I was going to say they're not coming back. I don't think
they're
that
not
they
free
can,
agents, though. I think
they're not, so it's kind of cheating there.
Yeah.
I don't think Coleman comes back. I'm not sure if they can afford to bring Juice back. I'm not sure if they can afford to bring Kendrick Bourne back.
Listen, Juice is going to give them a hometown discount because he knows he finessed them for a bunch of money.
He probably will. And how many other teams even carry fullbacks now that I think about it?
Right.
His options are limited. Sherman might not be back, to be honest with you. Just like you said, depending on what he values himself at this point in his career, he might feel disrespected by the 49ers offer.
Listen, Sherman's a Stanford guy. He knows better.
I'd hope so, but he's also got a pretty sizable ego. If I had to bet,
that's true.
Let's see. Yep, Kyle Juszczyk. Just kidding. Yeah. You like Tart? I like Tart as well. I think Tart's a very good safety, underrated. But I think he also knows his
playing
worth.
Himself to a big contract.
Exactly. So I'm not sure if the 49ers can afford him. Our own Scott has a friendship, I guess, a relationship with Tart, and he was kind of alluding to that as well, that maybe he doesn't come back regardless of how good the 49ers are and how good of a system it is.
Scott's friends with Tart?
Yeah.
How the fuck do I not know about this?
When Scott came down for, forget which game he came down for last season, he met up with him in the hotel room. He got Scott free tickets and stuff like that. It was really cool.
What?
Yeah, you didn't know. How do you not know this?
Is that because Scott took a bite out of butter thinking it was ice cream?
No, that is hilarious though. I
story.
believe they everybody in watching right now, you're gonna get the Scott and Tart story. I believe for Niners Nation, Scott went ahead and did a piece interviewing Tart directly one-on-one, and they kind of struck up a friendship, and they keep in touch. I know they do keep in touch, but yeah, when we were there, I think it was before we went to IHOP that night, we ran over to the team stadium or the team hotel. Scott ran upstairs. I stayed in the lobby, and he was up there for maybe 10, 15 minutes. Then he came down and he gave him better seats, tickets, stuff like that. So he took care of him. He signed some stuff for him, and I know that they still talk.
Cool deal.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna give Scott credit too, because he doesn't wave that shit around, which like I think I respect the shit out of that, because I know some people who abuse their relationships with players and think that it makes them special, and the fact that I've never known about that, like, that speaks to Scott's character. So round of applause for Scott.
Respect.
That's a stand-up thing to do. Appreciate you.
All right, guys.
I think we're going to get out of here, right?
Yeah, I think that's it for us. I was just going to say that. Thank you all for tuning in to our Week 5 preview, our live stream. We really appreciate you guys all. We really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Catch us every week live on Saturdays, previewing the game, and live on Sundays right after the press conferences. We will be recapping the game. So come join us. Send in your questions, send in your comments. We love to hear it all. You can find me on Twitter at Zach Hernan. You can find Matt at Mr. Matt BSN. And go and follow us, tweet at us, and obviously follow 49ers Hive. And if you're watching this after we're live, drop a comment below if the game is not over yet. I should say if the game hasn't started yet, because you could probably get a pretty good prediction later on in the game of the final score. And if it hasn't started yet and you're correct, we'll send you some free merch.
Yeah, we're going to cut that off. We're going to cut that off at kickoff time. And as always, guys, come find us on YouTube, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you never miss a video. And until next time, guys, go Niners.